The construction industry is heading towards a revolution right now. It's about time. It hasn't changed in thousands of years and relies on manual labor. Robotics is going to start to affect what we do. The real problem is the economy and people and jobs, and those jobs and the amount of money that we spend on band-aid solutions when we could spend it on real solutions. And I think that's what I'm hoping to try and prove. And I know I'm just one guy.
Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, I had a discussion with Kris Potts. He's a CEO and founder of Norseman Construction and Development Limited, a Toronto-based construction company recognized for blending craftsmanship with a cutting-edge technology. Over the past 2 decades, Kris has grown Norseman from a one-person operation into an award-winning builder, groundbreaking use of 3D contour printing, structural insulated panels, and a construction as a service company. He's passionate about building not just homes, but the system of housing that are faster, smarter, and more sustainable, leaving behind a legacy of innovation and opportunity for next generation of builders. He's also a host of podcast Construction Disruption. Now, this was very interesting discussion around the construction industries, emerging innovations, and new technologies. And we also talked about housing issues caused by new immigration level and the demands from next generation of homeowners. Kris also shared insights on some of the industry disruptive technology around the world and how Canadian market can use and it can impact our housing challenges. We also talked about government programs and what is required to meet both labor market challenges and housing market challenges. He also talked about a couple of his key initiatives. The first one was a LiveWell training program, and the second one was a Maxi printer deployment. Hope you enjoyed this discussion as much I did. I only have a one quick ask. We recently find out about 37% of people who watch our content, they not subscribe to our channel. So please, if you're finding a value from this discussion, subscribe to this channel and share this with your friends. Until next time, enjoy this discussion. Please welcome Kris Potts. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today our guest is Kris Potts. Kris, you've been doing a lot of interesting stuff, from a renovation to all the technology stuff. It's just when you look at technology, what's changed over the last few years. It's hard to keep up with everything, and I don't know how you keep up with it. But I'm looking forward to learning from you. Looking forward to understanding what you're working on. So thank you so much for time and welcome to the podcast.
All right, thanks for me. I really appreciate being here. As you said, once you start breaking into some of the construction aspects of technology, and we start talking about them, I'm going to explain to you some of the things that we're involved in and some of the stuff that we're about to be involved in. And I'm sure it'll prove pretty interesting to you. Actually, maybe even something that you might want to even delve deeper into later if we can't hit everything today, because I know there's a lot to talk about. So.
Yeah, let's start from, so before you got into technology, you were focused on a renovation side of things, right? So that was you were doing that for years, or was it something else you were working on before you got into?
Norseman Construction is still primarily a renovation company. It wasn't before. We actually started it working in high rise. I used to be a commercial diver, so I worked overseas quite a bit. I worked in the Middle East. I've worked in Africa. I worked down in the South China Sea area as well for about 5 years. I was an underwater commercial diver. Once I came home to Canada in sort of early 2004, late 2004, I actually didn't have a job, and not a lot of people were hiring divers back then. So intermittently while I was diving, I actually was involved at Local 27 as a carpenter, and I was going through union training to become a carpenter. Every time I would come home, I would sort of do a class, and then I would go back out, I would do some work, and I'd come home, I'd do some more work as a carpenter and trying to figure out how to best, evolve myself into something else. Eventually, when I came back, I didn't actually have work. And Norseman started through my friend, Ryan Miller, who used to work at Crestford, which was a high-rise builder owned by Dan Casey. They're now gone, but they were primarily a very big builder back in 2005. And I started changing locks. I actually was doing deficiencies in sales centers, if you could imagine.
Wow.
And within about a year, I actually had 30 employees because I was so good at what I was doing, and I fulfilled those requirements that were needed to get done based on the timelines that builder needed to, and that turned into Norseman Construction. In 2008, we started to delve into technology by building what was called the CRS system, which was the cost recovery system. And it was a Palm Pilot driven program that would, based on Excel, that would track the deficiencies by the tag numbers for high rise buildings, and then it would allow them to be billed to certain trades that we would deem responsible for them at the time or not responsible for them at the time, and classify those into deficiencies that got fixed, and they would bill the time that it took to repair those deficiencies, giving it a printout to the developers who could then actually recoup some of those funds, in negotiations at the end of the builds. So actually, we did quite well. For 4 years, we specialized in this, and I had about 40 employees, and we were, I would say, in majority of the buildings downtown, and we worked for, companies like, Crestford. We worked for Sheldon Rosen. We worked for Charles Mady, just to name a few. Concord 86 at the time too. We did a few jobs for those guys, and that was our main focus. And it wasn't
So that's the 2008, 2009 time, Kris?
yeah, and it wasn't until renovations didn't happen until the 2008 in the States, when everything dropped. And that obviously impacted Canada, but not as fast. High rise sort of slowed down, and then we migrated into the residential field.
Got it, got it. So that's a 3-4 years you guys spend in that. That's 2012, 2013. I guess that's what you guys got into residential, right?
2011, we really put a lot of effort into residential and started growing our business in that sector, mostly because we wanted to get paid. It's really,
Got it.
you're working for like 120 days, and you got all of your capital out, and you're trying to get it in. It's difficult. Those guys kind of own you, and you're sort of at the bequest of whatever they need you to do, just hoping you're gonna get paid. One thing about working with homeowners is you work as a relationship, and you're building the job together as a team. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not just getting told what to do. You're following a plan that you've mutually built. And then as a team, you're executing that plan. I think that's what makes renovations that much better, is that you're not alone as a company, but and your client is your team member. And you guys are working together to accomplish the goal of something that's extremely important, and not just something as a one-off that they're going to do because they don't care about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is their biggest investment. And, as a client, you're invested. We understand that. So we work with you to make that happen. And that's why we spend a lot of time in our company, putting together systems, developing strategies that are going to work best for our clients, and building on that, you know, individual experience, that allows a client to experience something that they normally wouldn't in a renovation with how we do business.
Got it. Good. And if you build those good relationship, then you work with those same companies over and over on different projects. I take it, right. So that's how the industry probably works, right? Because you get build those relationships because you had a success as a team together with the clients.
So in a commercial setting, yes, I agree with you. Building that relationship and having that strategy, and being able to execute each project that they're going to give you. But when you're with a homeowner, usually you're only doing one project.
Got it. Got
Most people, unless they've got, substantial amount of wealth that they want to invest into projects, unless, they've got a lot of money that they want to put into multiple renovations, or they've used us along the years. We have some clients that keep coming back, who do multiple renovations over their course of sometimes even now 10 years. But majority of people are going to do one reno, and they're going to do one big job, and then they're going to get it done. Or if they've got multiple small ones, yes, we'll do those throughout the years.
it.
And that's usually how that aspect of the renovation will function. And that's why we spent a lot of time, on the systems that we create, and we start looking at how technology is going to work with our clients, because we want everybody to have such a good experience. So we dedicate individuals to working with them. Whereas, I'm not going to say most, I'm going to say some other contracting firms, they're busy. I mean, that boss is out working on the job, selling the job at night, writing the quotes later on that night, meeting clients as well after work. And sometimes these guys are working 17 hours a day, and they're barely sleeping, and they're barely home.
Mhm.
And if they take on more than 1 or 2 jobs, now their time is just completely gone. And those renovations that they want to give 100% effort to, they can't because they just don't have enough ability because they don't have enough time to do it. And that's where I wanted to make our customer experience different, where you get a dedicated project manager who's also overseen by an ops manager who gives, you have a minimum of a 1 hour call a week with that ops manager dedicated just to your job. We use as many project management tools that there are available, and we're already starting to experiment with AI tools. And our company, this is where we're getting into a lot of tech. We actually, specifically me, I sit as a consultant on 3 AI companies right now. And I'm working with them to strategize on how to build better product and how to really focus on what is needed to give that client experience the best experience that they can have. And
Mm-hmm.
that what that really is it's dedicated time and it's attention to the detail because construction, let's face it, it's organized chaos. It's
Mm-hmm.
what it is, and I think that's what led me now into this focus into technology, not just technology, but the way of delivering good, fast, cheap, and getting all 3 rather than just choosing 2.
Yeah. But this is such a great point, Chris. I work with a lot of business leaders on a daily basis. This is what they struggle, right? So the systems and technologies is a biggest struggle for any business leaders, right? So they struggle with they don't adopt so fast. They looks like you for you it was just natural way of solving problems, right? So how do you think of the systems and technology that other business owners I know they don't think it that way, right? The systems and technology is the last thing they think about process, how they're gonna be more efficient and all this stuff. They focus more on people side of things, right? And how could we solve a people problem altogether? But they always lack on a system and technologies. You seems to think that natural way of solving problem is with the technology and system. What drove that change in your business, and how do you start thinking about that?
Okay, that's a good question. So, and I can't comment on everybody's business, but what I can comment on is being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I always felt was important as an entrepreneur was being able to deliver what I was able to deliver on as my best asset. And my best asset that I was always good at was organizing strategy and taking a look at things from a higher perspective. Now, don't get me wrong, I have done every job in my business you can ever think of. Like, I've done it all. I've worked it myself, you name it. I started out as a by myself in this job in this company doing everything. And I realized that doing everything, yeah, I succeeded. I was very good at it. I was a good salesman. I was great on the tools. I was good as, customer service with my clients. I could run a team effectively when I was on site. But what really mattered and what I could see would really make the difference is by providing more time. And that's when I realized that dedicated time to your client is what everybody is looking for. Like, you go to a great restaurant. Why do you pay so much money to go to a fancy restaurant? 95% you're paying for the attentiveness that you're
Human service.
yeah.
Human service, other side.
Your food is great. Don't get me wrong. You go to a great food, you're expecting great food, but you're also expecting great service. You're expecting that attentiveness, that attention to detail on your food, the way that it's plated, the way it comes out, the way it's served, the way the waiters are there for you, the way the sommelier is there for you. All those things that you want that experience to be, that's what you're paying for. So I realized that time really and the attentiveness to the project at hand, whether this be construction or whether it be any business, really is what sets the value of what you're able to provide apart from anybody else. So the only way that that can be accomplished is by, yes, finding the right people, but it's also using the tools that are available to be able to provide that better service. And people spend a lot of time developing those tools because everybody understands that those tools are valuable to your service. Now, in construction, you may not think it, but it is an actual service-based business. We're providing a service. It's like a restaurant. We're there to provide you a catered experience with an a la carte list of a menu that you're looking to get to, in the end result, get what you want and what you envision to be paid for. And then that experience along the way is
Mhm.
very important. And the only way to deliver that experience in a functional platform that everybody can understand is by having it laid out in a way that the client can understand. Because remember, construction, it's chaotic and it's full of a variety of different avenues of work, which are amalgamated together into one giant soup to make
Mm.
it come to an end result. And they come with their own vocations of trade, which is extremely hard to explain. Like if I was to tell you all the complexities of carpentry or all the complexities of plumbing or all the complexities of how drywall needs to be installed at humidity levels, everybody would, you'd get bored, number one. But number two, it would take too long. But to
Yeah.
to know that it's being installed the right way, to know that the product is being, installed the right way, and having the ability that you as a client can have some control in what you're experiencing, that's important because you're paying most of the time the second biggest thing you're ever going to pay for in your life.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that is such a great point. I want to make sure that audience are listening, Chris. They get this very clear. So let me rephrase what you just said, and correct me if I'm off on that. So what you're saying is any business, and whether it's a service business or whatever business, you want to provide top of the line tools for your staff to do all the back office stuff. That's something you can be automated. Something could be, more efficient. Whatever you want to do. So they all that work is automated very efficiently, and then you want them to provide the better customer experience, so they spend most amount of time with the customers on a human's other side, but all the back office that is automated. Is that the thought process you were wish?
The more time you can spend with your clients, interfacing and coordinating and organizing, but at the same time, having all of the procedural aspects of the project being taken care of, the better off you're going to be as a company, but also the more organized you're going to be, and then the better client experience they're going to have. And I'll give you an example. I didn't know where to go with it because it was a deep dive into something that probably would have taken me down a hole, but I'll touch a bit of the top. We're working with this company called Raven. Now you can't find them online yet, but it is an AI-based company that is building the ability for individual um, project management companies or construction companies to track each individual cost by QR code directly from the supplier. And they will
Mhm.
classify those individual purchases, even if you buy them all in one shot, even if you buy them all as a bulk, it doesn't make a difference, into the buckets of each job. Well, why would you spend so much time to do that? Well, because an accountant has to do it, and if you're by yourself, you got to do it. And one of the things that's extremely important, at least in construction, is each job has a budget. And if you start to go over that budget and you don't know, but you're just looking at your bank account and be like, oh, I got like 200 grand in my account, or I got $100,000. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. And I got 4 jobs on the go. But that two of those jobs have gone over budget, but you don't know that because you're not up to date on your books and you don't even know
Mm.
where you've gone overboard. You're bankrupt and you don't even know it. You're going to finish these jobs and have no money left. And if you're living on that job, on those jobs, and you don't keep selling, you're constantly in the hole, but you won't know it till 3 months later. Whereas this program will tell you exactly where you are from a budget perspective at all times on that job. So you know if you've gone over, even on, let's say, carpentry or on framing or on whatever the bucket category that you've put in, even just by buying a $3 set of screws that you need to apply for that for the job, that will tell you instantly if you've gone over budget. Now you know in the middle of your job, oh my God, I'm over budget here. I've got to right my ship. But that also allows you to be able to figure out where you sit financially on those projects so that you can budget your life so you're not so stressed out. Therefore, you can provide a better customer experience because you're not so stressed out and you know how much time you can apply to each project yourself.
Mhm.
That's just one aspect.
Yeah, so you're getting a real-time information, and then you're getting a visibility into the critical data what you need to make some decisions.
But I'm not I'm kind of glazing over the aspect of the program, but what I'm intending to say is that each business should strive to be able to look for its best capabilities that are available, to constantly look for that business's ability to increase its proficiency, which will ultimately always increase the return on your investment based on your ability to perform at your highest level for your client's experience.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I meant by saying that. Now that's an AI tool, and it will be available probably. It just finished its MVP and probably be available for actual use in about a year. We've been using it now for a year and a half, helping this company build it. But it's changed our business because it allows us to be able to run realistically up to 20 jobs, 25 jobs at a time because we know where every dollar is being allocated and there's not a misplaced dollar anywhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
That allows for a better client experience. It also allows us to forecast, which is huge. And by being able to forecast, you can budget. By budgeting, you can borrow. You can then also look at your company and you can see where you're going to be in a year from now and strategize that on how many employees you need to have, how many PMs do we need to have, what's our job quotas, where do we go, which now allows you to be able to hire sales and marketing VPs or interior design VPs or architectural VPs. And you can now expand your business, which is what's allowed me to now focus not just on my company. And there's a very, a lot of guys that you see them advertised, you know, stop focusing on your company, but focusing like on your company. I forget the saying. It's like,
Yeah, working on a business instead of working in a business.
there you go. That's it.
Mm.
That's the saying. So that will allow you to do that because you can start to build your company. So now you're not selling anymore. Now you're not on the tools anymore. Now you're not doing, the manual labor anymore. Now you're not running crews anymore. Now you're strategizing your business from either biweekly or monthly or quarterly projections. And you can do that because there's tools out there that allow you to do it, which changes your ability to build your business. And then where I'm at now is I'm focusing on technology that will increase the efficiency of our already existing efficiencies.
Mhm.
Start getting into things like 3D printing. We start getting into things like water supply management on buildings. So now you're, bringing in products which are state of the art, top of the line. Like our company just purchased from Construction 3D the first fully mobile printer to print houses in Canada. We're the only company that owns this right now. And we've also got the only training course in the world that I know of right now that trains people on how to use 3D printed products and how to build wall systems in combination with a modular wall system. We've built that because we know that we want to be able to save the 30% time. We also know we want to save cost. We also want a better product. Well, that's out there. But if we can deliver those, of which we've got two projects that we're getting ready to deliver, one's on
Mhm.
Eileen and another one's on Kipling. One's a 6-story structure that will potentially have 40 units in it, and we're building a YouTube show around this, and I'll explain to you in a bit. The other one's on Eileen, and it's a sixplex, and we're going to be focusing on low-income housing and its ability to provide that at a cost-effective solution to build, which allows other builders to look at this and say, "Hey, man, this is a great idea. How much did you build this for? Wow." We're looking at trying to save up to that 30% in cost and 30% in time, which will also save you money. That's really where we're starting to focus our projections.
So let's talk about 3D printing, Chris. I want to make sure that people understand. So definitely is gonna if we can use that in a development, is gonna save a lot of costs and it's gonna save a lot of time. But what are we printing? Are we printing in the material? What are we printing? What's the outcome out of it? What are we producing out of that?
You're printing concrete, and so we
Got it. Okay.
called Printera Canada, and their main focus is to produce a system called ACAS, so it's additive construction as a service, which allows companies to be able to um, work with them to print houses. So they partnered with York University, they've partnered with Windsor University, and did 4-year academic study into the 3D printing aspect of houses. They've also got a number of other partnerships with sensors to be able to see, where this concrete and how this concrete's wearing down. They do constant testing, and they're vying for the Part 4 capability of this product to be used in construction. We will be Norseman Construction will be one of the first companies to actually build with 3D in Ontario structurally. Now, there's been other companies that have built veneer walls but they haven't built it as a structural component. We're vying to build these two buildings as a structural component. With Printera, they're actually working with York University, or not York, but with Windsor University to build the largest 3D printed building in the world. Actually, Guinness Book of Records is going to come in to validate that afterwards. And it will be a full student accommodation for Windsor University as part of their engineering residency. So we, as a company, Norseman, I feel that by staying at the head of the curve in this technology and focusing on it will allow us to not only get a little bit of an edge in business, but it will also provide the ability to prove its capabilities. And by us staying at the head of that curve, we're constantly using these types of innovations to experiment, to build forward, and to build
Mhm.
better, and to build faster.
Got it. Is there possibility for this technology to ever go into the public side of things, whereas building of bridges, building of roads, and all that kind of construction as well, Chris? Because we see a lot of delays every time building a bridge is like a 10 years project or 5-year project or any roads. Would that ever get into that kind of infrastructure as well? Would it stay in a housing and a high rise?
I actually think that as testing evolves and the ability for the mix, and this is important to understand, and I'm as I'm understanding, I'm learning myself. So uh, bear with me if I don't explain this fully the right way. That the mix itself is very important in how 3D printed products produce what they do, because it's not standard concrete. The mix has a lot of versatilities to it. Some of them are actually mixed with carbon material, that there are dose packs. Now, I can't say too much because I'm under some NDAs on some of these things, but there are dose packs which can actually increase the carbon efficiency of these products to actually lend towards, I think, in some circumstances, up to 35% is carbon credits on building. I know right now in Canada, we can only go 3 stories high. Later, that I'm sure as more testing in Canada evolves through Printera, York University, and Windsor University, they're going to, through their engineering departments, deliver more data on how this will affect our ability to use it as a constructor, and the versatilities of which those capabilities will be determined for bridges, for other aspects of construction, I think will be defined as further testing evolves. Now, I know in Europe, through Construction 3D, they're actually currently at the York University campus today, this week, doing testing using my machine with Printera. Actually, as we speak, they're there. In France, they're using this material for ballistic shielding. They're also built 4-story structures with them already. And in Dubai, they have 20 of the same machine that I've just imported to Canada. They have 20 of them working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, building 150 homes a month, fully finished. Now, later on, I'll be traveling over there through my YouTube show, to take a look at what they're doing, and investigate how they're being able to build on such a mass level using these pieces of equipment. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is this 3D printer that I purchased is called the Maxi printer. This piece of equipment can work realistically 24 hours a day. It's a robotic arm on top of a tank chassis.
No breaks required. Just goes at it.
Three-man
Yeah.
team that based on the trajectory planning of the plotting of the product will print based on that team and its knowledge of where it needs to go. Now, that three-man team could work 10-hour shifts if they wanted to, 8-hour shifts. You could split it into three. However, that doesn't need to stop that piece of equipment ever working. And
Mhm.
that's something that will increase the time and decrease the cost of that product, and how its ability to perform gets used. Now, some might say it's going to take up a ton of jobs away. No, well, listen, the construction industry is heading towards a revolution right now. It's about time. It hasn't changed in thousands of years and relies on manual labor. Robotics is going to start to affect what we do. We have to adapt and work with it. AI is going to affect what we do. We have to adapt and work with it. Now, will there be, mass robotic plumbers? No, I don't think so. They're not gonna. This number, it's not gonna get there.
Yeah.
You know, is it gonna take away the need for constructors? No, but we are going to work alongside them. Yeah.
It's gonna increase productivity, Chris.
eh,
So to give us an idea, so I'm trying to get an idea. I know it's gonna be improving and it's gonna always gonna be making some changes, but where we are right now. So if you take a six-story building, the ones you're building, right? If you do a manual labor, and how long would it take, and compare if you can compare that with the with the 3D printing, how much time can be saved by doing that? Like any idea, like how far we are currently where we are right now?
Okay, so now I'm going to comment on this, but I'm going to do this in a way where uh, it'll be based on some speculation because some of the stuff that we're going to be using has never been used in real construction before to the levels that we're going to
Yeah,
push.
we're learning and growing as we go through it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay. For the show we've named the show Construction Disruption. That is going to be the name of the show that's coming out. And it will focus on building a six-story building and traveling the world to find the best technologies that will be suited, that will lower the cost, increase the building product, and increase the efficiency of that product. And that's going to be our goal. Now, our hopes, because of
Mm.
a six-story building like this, 45 units or so, it's going to take you somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years by the time you're finished everything. That's like, you're getting your building permits to the time you break ground to the time you finish about 2.5 years. You're probably looking at somewhere between 10 million to, I guess, in worst case scenarios, $14 million to build this product, right?
Yeah.
I'm using a very broad.
Yes, just general terms. Yeah.
We're hoping that we can cut the time down by anywhere between as amazing as 50% to as worst case scenario as 30%. And our budget we're going to try and cut is somewhere between 15%, it's worst case scenario, to 35% of the budget in
Mm.
our project. Now that's our goal in the show. Travel, look for tech, institute it into our building, then come back, and then our second season will be actually using that tech and building that building in real time. So we're going to see what the world has to offer. We're going to see what technology is available, and we're not just restricting ourselves to robotics. We're looking at AI. We're looking at robotics. We're going to be looking at different efficiencies that are available in water and laser technology. We're going to be looking at builder software tools. We're going to be looking at how we can take a building and use as much of what is out there from a builder of my level. Again, remember, I am not a multi-billionaire. I don't have 250 employees. I am a regular guy like you who is going to do my best to try and make something happen so that you guys, like me, can get better at what you're doing. And
Well, this is where technology comes and levels everything, Chris. Is that if you're a big builder, if you have a big infrastructure, you're not gonna take that many risk with the technology, and you're not gonna innovate. But you doing that because you starting from where you are, right? So I think that's the opportunity, and that's where the innovation comes from. The smaller companies that trying to find a new ways of delivering it and disrupting it and taking those risks. Because when you're a big infrastructure, you can't take that many risks because you get a lot of people dependent on you.
actually, that makes sense. I agree. They have to stick to what works in order for them to keep moving in the direction that they move. Where I guess you're right. I'm a little bit more agile. I have, a smaller group. We're leaner and meaner, and the guys that I work with, they are constantly being upgraded with new ways of looking at things. So that entrepreneurial, adaptive nature kind of is almost inherent even with my team.
Yeah. So that's so 50, even you achieve 30% in a time, and you achieve 20% in a cost. That's a huge difference where you are. It definitely is going to get better over the time, but you got a competitive advantage over everybody else. I mean, 30% just in a time, and then 15-20% in a cost. I mean, no, that's a profit margin usually for any happening business. I mean, that sets you apart with a lot of businesses would trying to do the similar stuff with the manual labor.
Well, that's the goal. And I think that's where technology is really going to affect how we live and work. Now, one of the things that I was privileged enough to do is I've actually just came back from Kenya. not too long ago where I actually was there with the sovereign bank. And I actually presented to which is NACHU, which is the National Association of Construction Housing Union in Kenya. I spoke directly to them in front of 300 of their delegates, actually on national TV. We spoke about different technologies that could be brought to increase efficiencies in their country. And I went there as one of the special liaison guests to talk about this level of technology, of which it's not just 3D printing I'm involved in. There's also EPS. There's also water technology. There's deep well technology. There's a lot that I've based on prepping for this show. I've had the opportunity to travel to multiple different countries and meet with a lot of some of these top developers, of what that are bringing out these brand new technologies to the construction industry using robotics, AI, using different products, including magnetic displacement for energy, different levels of solar that are being incorporated into different sides of wall systems. There's EPS houses, which is a polystyrene blend of house and concrete that you can build to its completion in 3 weeks for less than $15,000.
Wow.
Like, and you can bring that en masse to countries that are adaptive to using manual labor and putting together training schools to build, and my goal in Kenya was to showcase how we could build 37,000 units in 1 year. And I did that.
Very
We
interesting.
showcased
Yeah.
that. We proved it. Now,
Mhm.
that was something that I actually started down this path about 2 years ago with a program called Build Forward Canada, where I worked with a number of different groups of companies that we bound together to prove how the um, the industrialization of Canadian construction could potentially build 100,000 homes in 1 year, and we came up with a theory to actually do it. And from our theories, it involved using and working with a lot of the groups that came into Canada with no jobs, being able to retrain them, working with the unions, providing a modular, sort of temporary building facilities that were set up like factories that could move around in different places, working with the federal and provincial governments, utilizing crown land and having, whoever that main developer was to work on the infrastructure. Cause that's one of the main problems we have in Canada is and why we don't have massive urban sprawl and the ability to build hundreds of thousands of homes because we've got so much land is it's the infrastructure. It's the gas, water, it's the hydro, and its ability to get to those locations. It's extremely expensive. So, but if you provide land through federal and provincial potential properties that they have already land banked, and you provide the ability for the individuals to work on their own homes, getting trained using modular capabilities and using robotics. Like there's a company called Romat out of Windsor. They have a $12 million machine just sitting, idling, waiting. No one's even up, and it can
Hmm.
put out 3,600 wall units in a month. And no one's using it because no big builder wants to invest right now in Canada because we have everything is chaotic. We have
Yes.
this disruption to our housing, our economy, our strategy. There's tariffs, there's wars. We have disruption in the country from theological disbeliefs into each other's religions. It's a mess. And why is an investor going to jump into that and try and build homes in such a chaos?
And especially when our politician complain that we got a housing problem. You got a solutions for housing problem. You're just not trying to solve a problem. What I'm hearing from you is the solution's already there. We could solve the problem if we can get that municipal infrastructure there, hydro and electricity, all that kind of stuff. We can get to the places very easy to build the houses. It's not that big a problem. We can use those machinery to build those houses very quickly and solve the problem.
Yeah, I think don't get me wrong, it would be a big undertaking to do. However, we all know the federal government and the provincial governments are giving out what was the last estimate? $1.1 billion has been dispersed for individuals sitting in hotel rooms. But that's one po that's a national number that was put in to, on social publication, $1.1 billion. That's how much we spent on housing. We just gave the municipal government $634 million to build homeless shelters. But why are we building homeless shelters when we should be building houses? That money
Exactly.
is used to build houses to provide jobs, and you could provide public works. Was it Hoover? Was it? I think it was Hoover, who put together during the Depression in the United States. He built an infrastructure to provide jobs for his people, so that they could provide homes and provide an economy that would stimulate growth within the country during the Depression.
Hmm.
We could technically do that. We have enough people that with coordination with the unions and coordination with big box builders and coordination with companies like Romat, who have machinery, who have equipment, could put together government works programs that could allow the building of multiples, like thousands of homes. And if
Hmm.
technology is there to aid that, the AI systems are there to aid that. And the amount of money that we spend on band-aid solutions when we could spend it on real solutions. And I think that's what I'm hoping to try and prove. And I know I'm just one guy.
Yeah, but it has to start somewhere. And
Doing this, but
yeah. So when you're trying to do that, so other side of that is as a Chris, and I seen that in a business over and over that you're talking about AI, you're talking about a lot of technology, including 3D and a lot of other technologies. When you taking on that many technologies and you moving the speed of you're thinking, the possibilities are out there. What left behind is the people side of things, the talent side of things. So how do you finding people? One is that finding a new ways of doing things, with the technology and all this stuff. Second part is training people to use that because you're not gonna be able to do that by yourself. You gotta train people how to use that, or you gotta spread some awareness, or some education. You gotta move along people with you with the project. Otherwise, it's not gonna get anywhere. How do you trying to solve the problem?
well, that's exactly what we've done. We partnered with York University right now and Printera and a company called Build a Dream, which is a not-for-profit company out of Windsor. And we've done just that. We've put together a free 8-week course to train people how to read drawings, to get their health and safety certification put together. We have now brought in Toronto Construction Association. They're going to be providing blueprint reading and understanding of base level drawings. Then we're teaching people how to use the 3D printers and how to be able to be upskilled. So we're looking at right now is upskilling tradesmen. We're also then using wall systems from a company called Thermapan. They're providing us SIT panels, which is called a structurally insulated panel. And we are providing for free for 50 people over from starting in August till next year in March, 3 upskilling training cohorts to get upskilled and trained so that 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 base for people to work in this environment is there. And we're doing that ourselves right now.
Hmm.
And you can go on our website, you can take a look at it right now, and you can sign up. Now, we're taking the top 50 groups or individuals that could be upskilled into this. And it's not just men, it's women, it's men, it's everybody. Because the best part about this is it's technology based. So you don't have to be a big, burly, 6 foot pound, 250, pound man to lift blocks.
Anybody can learn.
Yeah, you're working with equipment. It could be women. It could be, you can even potentially, be handicapped and have potential issues, but you can still work this piece of equipment. And that's available for everybody. And that's another big dynamic is it opens up the doors to a whole plethora of people to use this equipment and use it quickly. Like there's no reason why, if I had the money and we had the ability to print multiple homes by 1 year, we couldn't be doing what Dubai is doing right now and printing 150 homes, a month. Now, that doesn't seem like that's a massive amount of work being accomplished.
Hmm.
That's being done, and in Acon down in Texas, they have an entire city being printed.
Yeah.
And that's happening. Like it's being done around the world. And it's about, I think if we want to stay, ahead of the curve or at least on the top, I'm going to use a surfing connotation just because I spent like 15 years going back and forth to Costa Rica. So if we want to stay on top of that wave and be able to drop down properly without bailing, we got to know how to surf and we got to know how to stay what that wave, how to see that wave to get the right one that we want to be on to then take us into the home run. And I think that's something that, we're trying to do, And I think hopefully, under Carney's leadership, because I know he's really focusing on how this can get accomplished. I know he's mentioned things like mass timber, and there's a great company called Assembly Corp. They're in Toronto here, run by a gentleman by the name of Leaf Moore, who is an absolute god of construction. So if you hear this, that I'm calling you out. Used to work with the Sabera Group for 35 years as one of their top guys. Now he is leading the charge in this field. And he's actually putting together groups that can help focus on how this can move forward. I'm going to be one of the guys, hopefully, that gets to sign up in this group as well. And he's building 6-story structures out of mass timber and out of wall systems. And he'll definitely be one of the guys that we're going to go check out on the show too, to showcase how that technology is being used and how we potentially could use it on our buildings as well.
Yeah.
To bring all of that together.
It's definitely that to your point, right? That's solving a talent problem. The younger generation, they're coming out of school, and they're very tech savvy people. They're very keen to learn on some of the technology. But with this your partnership you have with the York and all the other colleges, you think these education programs or partnership will produce enough talent, enough labor for you to take on these projects and build what we are planning to build, Chris?
I think one of the things that's really great about education systems that I've started to become a part of is that they're willing to help adapt change. And change is always at the forefront of how they look at at, at the adaptability with whatever infrastructure that they're promoting. So in this case, construction. And they have a really great gentleman at York University who leads their innovation program. Now, unfortunately, I don't know, I can't forget his name off the top of my head, but they have this department which is directly um, you know, suited towards developing innovation. And even our course is getting some portions of accreditation towards the York University program. So if you take this course and you get accepted into our course that we're building, you actually get to be able to apply this time to a real accredited course at York. Also, through this, you get a NEAST accreditation, and you get to have, I think it's a couple of gold stars accumulated towards your project management title through the Toronto Construction Association, as they're sponsoring a portion of this through the blueprint reading aspect of it. Um, and I think, like to your point, we have the ability to take the young minds uh, who want technology without going into the manual labor side of things. And I think whether we like it or not, I think we have to push a lot more of that because trades are extremely important because, as I mentioned, technology isn't going to solve everything. So if you have the combination of the great minds who are willing to work in the construction industry and see that as value, see that as, new and upcoming, almost an adventure. Because think about this. This is all brand new. Everything we're going to do is brand new. So this is an adventure. This is new. This has never been done. So you're at the height of a combination of such an old world theoretical view on how things should be done to the creation of new and using the tools that are being created in a combination to do what maybe we've never done before. And I think that's what really drives me. And I think it'll drive a lot of people looking at how this can be, what we can do with it. I think, but regardless of what we do and what we create and how we come up with all these processes, it'll still be dependent on our ability to have money to build homes. And it will still also depend on the economy of those people to be able to afford to keep and pay for those homes.
Yeah.
And that's really what is going to come down to housing. So providing homeless shelters is going to be, I guess, great for,
Temporarily, probably you can get through it. Um,
but I mean, like the real problem is the economy and people and jobs. And those jobs will then allow people to be able to afford homes.
Yeah, but kudos to you guys, Chris. Not only you guys bringing new technology and trying to figure out the technology works or what's the best use of application of every technology. Same time, you're trying to educate people as well to build up a skill set. It's a hand in hand. These when he's trying to solve a problems. these problems go hand in hand. You got to solve all three problems. It looks like you're trying to cover every single area of these problems and trying to move everything forward. But it takes a lot of courage, a lot of hard work to figure out these technologies, how they're gonna work and how they're gonna benefit for people, to deliver that the solution what people need.
That and great partners, honestly, and platforms like yourself that allow, people like me to come out and speak about what's coming down the line and what's available. Having great partners like Lee Newman from, Printera, who's willing to, dedicate and invest time and energy into working with me as a builder and helping us to develop, this course and putting in all of the effort that he's done while he's also working for NGen. He's putting together work with these universities. Like, the universities being involved and everybody's, that's part of this push to create something that can be affordable, because ultimately, like you said, it is a risk. And, risks can either be rewarding or
There's
they
no
can
rewards without a risk, Chris.
also be the other way. So, be a disaster too at the same time.
But that's a risk. That's part of the risk, right? But there's no reward without a risk. You got to put something in the line to achieve something, right? So that is how I see. So, well, talk about your show. What is happening with the show? What your plans are? And how does the idea came along with the show?
Okay, so that's great. Thanks. So we're building a show. Again, the reason why the show exists in the first place was because I knew I was going to be traveling to look at all of these technologies in the first place. Then we thought, hey, we should video record this to document it because no one's really doing this. And then it turned into, why don't we build a YouTube show around it? I didn't know if I was going to be good on camera in the slightest, but we started to shoot and I found that I actually was pretty comfortable. And hey, maybe I'm entertaining. I'm not sure. I seem very animated. So, uh, you know, we started to look at how this could turn into something that would not only be educational and entertaining, but also for me, it would also give me a platform to investigate and learn and adventure really into this world that I didn't really know much about until, a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
And now, as I'm really delving into it as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a constructor who's not at a mass level, but at a medium and, average level, how can this be used to benefit, the average contractor, the average, builder who is going to potentially look at increasing his renovations, increasing his, maybe custom homes, or maybe even, delving into 6-story buildings or sixplexes. One of the big things that, Mayor Chow right now is pushing is sixplexes. We need rentals. So,
Mhm.
she's even divided up different wards where you can get a building permit right now as of right. You just have to apply as long as it passes codes. And there's even pre-approved sixplex buildings that you could just get a permit for and start building like in 2 months.
Mhm.
Why not increase the efficiency of the build as well? You know? And I think that lent to the show. And then obviously it's construction and it's disruption because of all of these potential new technologies that we're going to build in that gave us the name construction disruption. And
Wow.
I think, really going through a learning curve will give everybody the insight that they need while I'm doing this. And we're also going to, as a group, so anybody that's going to watch this with me is going to be able to give advice potentially worldwide. So we're going to end up bringing in a community of potential builders and engineers who can lay in advice. And who knows if we can, all of us from a collective using that world stage as a platform, we could potentially build a building like no one's ever built. And if that turns into something that could be replicated over and over again or brought to better efficiencies over and over again from a collective, a worldwide viewing collective, can you imagine how amazing that would be? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, and then that one of the things that I didn't even get this into, like, I didn't even get into this for views. I got into this because I think it's a real thing that can happen. Like,
You're solving problem. It's a real problem you try to
if you're
solve.
bringing everybody together through a social platform that everybody watches already, like, I look at guys like Mark Roberg, like an engineer, he brings a level of entertainment value to what he does. He's educating at the same time. He provides a network of, potential other engineers in looking at how potential problems can get solved, but bringing a level of entertainment to it at the same time. I look at I'm not gonna compare myself to you, Mark, because you're amazing, but, like, if I could be anywhere as a shred of educationally, perceptive in my approach, with at the same time having, potential other builders or engineers who are using other technologies that are that maybe no one even knows about, that we could bring collectively to build one building. And I know this is all my money, so I'm risking a bunch of stuff on this at the same time, but can you imagine what the end result would be? Can you imagine that there's all of a sudden this develops into a platform potentially universally to build 50 units in 6 months for 5 million bucks? I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. But, like, you could be building them all over the place, which would then provide rental, and your cost is lower, so you wouldn't need to capture so much to cover your rent. So that means that the rent could go down, which means it would give an affordable place for people to stay because people don't have to capitalize on so much money. Now, I know that may be presumptuous, but that's
No, but that's what I've been thinking about. When we were talking, that's what I've been thinking. I'm looking from an investment standpoint. If somebody wants to invest money, this is a great opportunity. So, definitely, I'm thinking investment point, but I think this is a great opportunity. So I'm definitely interested in keeping a track of your progress, how you guys make a progress. I think that running a show is a great approach. In your side, not only you're gonna solve your problem, what are you trying to do? You're also going to help a lot of people to solve their problem at the same time. And I think this is just a great initiative. Going through the journey together. But I'm definitely interested in your progress. And I think we should do this again when you go through in a couple of months and see where you are. Because I'm more interested from an investment standpoint. Hey, how do I invest in something that is going to be efficient and is going to be more productive and it's going to get there much faster with a less cost, and I can make some revenue out of it.
well, I hear you. And I think, as I said, like, when she sort of opened up this door, it's like Pandora's box because there's just so many avenues that this potentially could tailor into. There's the good, there's the bad, and the ugly. But, in that process, we're gonna really kind of find out if this can be done. And I encourage, when this show gets launched, comment, please. Like, I may not have enough people at the start to really respond to everybody, but if there is, different technologies, or if there's different avenues that other, people around the world have done, I want that. I want that communication because I think it's really gonna change, you know, our perspective on how we do this. Now, I know codes in Canada that we're going to have restrictions on certain things that may not be allowed to be used, but we'll investigate those potentially through the show. And as again, this is a startup show. I may not be able to do a show every single week, so we're going to just try and do one once every 2 weeks for now. But as we progress, and if we do well, and we get the quality of entertainment at the same time as education value, as the same type of collaboration that could potentially come out of this. If the show does well, starts to perform, we'll be able to invest more back into it and make it more interactive and better, to be able to work with everybody to collaboratively approach this problem. And who knows, this could be a platform for change,
Yeah.
if we do it the right way.
We'll do our part to get the word out as much we can. Like, Chris, you gotta come back. We'll try to put a word out as much we can to make people aware. But it's a great cause. You're helping a lot of people, and you're solving a real problem that we need to solve as a Canadians. That are housing problems and all those other construction problem. I think you trying to make some very significant changes there. So, and kudos to you taking on all the work. But I think it needs people's attention. So we'll try our best to get the word out.
All right, thanks, Gurmeet. I appreciate.
Until shows up and running, where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
That's great. So, we're obviously at our Norseman Construction. So www.norsemanconstruction.ca is our website. We will have a construction disruption show details being announced shortly. We also have Norseman Innovates, which keeps our company's main trajectory mostly Norseman centric views on its approach as a business, developing itself into new industries and technology. I am on it. However, it's more my company's approach to its development in the construction aspect of it. And we will have a small YouTube shows coming up from there. But our main show is going to be the construction disruption that will launch sort of later on in August. And until then, that's where you can reach us.
I'm gonna include all the link below the videos. People can click a button and they can just connect with you. But I know there's a lot of the business leaders in a construction industry. They're watching the show. They listen to the show. They are our ongoing audience. I will encourage, even you're not in a construction industry, if you're running a business, if you're looking for investment opportunities, I will strongly encourage them to reach out to you, connect with you, have a conversation. I learned tons from you for last 40-45 minutes. I'm sure anybody who reaches out to, they're going to learn a lot about the technologies you bring into the market, and the education stuff you're running. I think they're going to learn a lot from you as well. So kudos to you taking all the risk and working hard, and encourage business leader reach out to you, connect with you, and see where the discussion goes. I think it's going to be learning opportunity for businesses from you. Until the show comes around, at least they can learn from you, and get ready for all the stuff you're going to put out.
All right. Thanks so much, Gurmeet. I appreciate that.
Hey, we're gonna do this again. We know when you go in a few months, in a show, and you make some progress. I definitely want to stay in touch, and take a look how with all the technology you're trying out, all the stuff you're doing. Especially when you go to Dubai, I definitely want to keep stay in touch and see what do you guys find there. So looking forward to our next discussion. Until next time, thanks for your time, Kevin. Oh, sorry, Chris. My apologies.
My brother.
That's my brother.
I can't wait until you get your studio so we can sit together and live do this.
We're working very hard at that. Very soon we're gonna have that. We'll do live maybe next time.
All right, cool. I like it.
Thanks,
All right.
Chris.
Yeah.